Hi there, this is Eternal King, bringing you another LOR video today. I want to talk about one of the highest win rate decks in Eternal right now, and it is Ziggs Poppy. So going over the list, it's kind of amazing how little that's happening here is special. It's basically just normal aggro 1-drops, Legion Saboteur, Legion Rearguard, Crimson Pigeon, Beard the Bard the Bellbringer, gives you a chime. So it's just 1-drops that overperform in terms of their evaluation as a 2/1 or a 2/2. They push a little extra value in the 1-drop slot. Crimson Pigeon's a 3/3, Legion Rearguard's a 3/2. Bard can be considered a 3/2 as well. And then Legion Saboteur pushes a little bit of burn. We have House Spider, it's a 3/3 for 2. It's a little overvalued. Imperial Demolitionist, it's a 2/2 that pushes for 2 burn. Pokey Stick is 1 burn and it draws. And then Stone Stackers is basically the 2 mana equivalent of Legion Saboteur, where it pushes on strike and has a good stat line. Bandle City Mayor, it's basically a 3 mana 2/3 that cycles, and that's good enough here for value when you just want to put stuff on board and get stuff on board. And the fact that he cycles as a 2/3 is good enough. I put there's one flex card here. Usually it's draw. I prefer the might. Like, there's very little difference here. The might's going to let you push a little extra damage in certain situations where the opponent doesn't expect it. For example, you throw it on a Stone Stackers or something, and now he's pushing 5 damage when otherwise he'd be blocked out. So the one might is kind of cheeky. Noxian Fervor, obvious staple aggro card. Ziggs, again, it's a 3 mana Legion Saboteur, so Ziggs is fine in this deck. Poppy will swing as a 3/3 for 4, and then buff all your little stuff, which is fine. And then you have Decimate. So very straightforward list. Currently has the highest win rate in Standard. It's sitting at something like 58%, I believe. And it's kind of amazing how well it's doing, considering what it is. The only deck that is competing with it on any kind of level is Nora Swain, because Nora Swain is going to have the pings and the board spam to kind of block this out. Because Nora generates, you're going to be generating lots of chump blockers, and then have lots of removal as part of the Swain package, and that turns out to be the only deck that can really deal with this. And to me, that's kind of amazing. That after this many seasons of LOR, this many expansions, that Ziggs Poppy, one of the most straightforward aggro decks in LOR history, is, quite frankly, beating out everything else in the Eternal meta in this huge extended card pool. It is perhaps the most Hearthstone-y deck. Like, I would say even more than Pirate Aggro, which has like TF, and there's a little bit of like thinking involved. With Pirate Aggro with the TF draw or the TF stun or the red card and Misfortune lining up pings, and then she's got her champ spell, which is Make It Rain. There's very little thinking involved in this deck. This deck is just like go 6 wide and swing, and just go as wide as you can every turn and swing. And then, if that doesn't get you there, you have the burn finish. And that's the entire deck. There's nothing else to this deck. And there's just not tools to deal with it currently. Now, I understand why. For example, Freljord removal is very inflexible. If we go to Freljord and we look at the removal that they have, it's the same stuff, right? You're going to run Avalanche, you're going to run Blighted Ravine. Like, these 2 cards have been around for forever in Freljord. Those are your 2 choices for board players. Typically, most ramp decks will not run either of them because they're problematic in other matchups. I think one of the kind of best tools to deal with aggro on the removal scale has always been Vile Feast. It used to be that Vile Feast was seen as a mandatory card inclusion for every kind of, and plus we have Hate Spike as well now, but just talking about Vile Feast. Vile Feast used to be like the mandatory anti-aggro tech for a Shadow Isles deck, and even like Shadow Ramp and things like that. I think increasingly people are not running Vile Feast anymore, and that's going to make you suffer in the aggro matchup. So there are a lot of tools in Eternal to deal with aggro, and even in an aggro deck as straightforward as this. But they're tools that are no longer run or no longer considered playable, and that's the problem. It's just the ramp deck that doesn't run the 3 avalanches the Shadow Isles deck that doesn't run the 3 Vile Feasts, you're going to get run over by this deck 58% of the time, apparently, according to the stats. So I think that's kind of funny. There's just so many people who pretend to be experts at this game and talk about, you know, oh, yeah, I can win with this, I can win with that, or look how good this deck is, look how good that deck is, and oh my god, these new cards are so amazing. But at the end of the day, they're losing 58% of their games to, you know, a deck with 12 1-drops, you know, 9 2-drops, kind of your standard board spammy stuff with a burn finish, and they're losing to it almost every game. And yeah, so I guess the more that you play LOR, the more time that passes, the more time, you know, the more things stay the same. But I don't want to say that, you know, the tech isn't there. You know, Shadow Isles has got so many things. It's got Box, it's got, you know, Dawning Shadows if you can cast that at fast speed. It's got things at 5 mana that heal and also deal with the board. You've got Eradication at 5 mana now. Again, the Box at 4. I believe the new Withering Mist. So again, Withering Mist, you know, it's just going to single-handedly beat an aggro deck pretty much every time, even something like this, where it does exactly what you want, which is, you know, the opponent summons 2 bodies, you kill 2 bodies, and then you heal for 4. And that's just game-winning. Withering Wail I find is usually slightly inferior, but Withering Wail and Withering Mist used to be 5 mana. They're 4 mana now. That's a huge mana reduction on, you know, Shadow Isles control kind of dealing with these aggro decks. You know, what are they going to have to do next? Make Box 3 mana? Like, the tools are there. It's just that the people who have been playing LOR for a very, very long time have increasingly started to shy away from fast speed answers, or even slow speed answers, or just spells in general. They attempt to win on board exclusively. And the problem with trying to win on board exclusively with every single deck is that some decks are just better at it than others. This deck is better on board than every other deck in the game. So if you can't be better on board, you better have the spells and the answers to deal with aggro. And currently, people just aren't teching them. So my big response to the power and prevalence of Ziggs Poppy in the Eternal format right now is remember your tools. Remember your Concussive Palms. Remember your Withering Mists and your Withering Wails. Remember your Vile Feasts. Remember your Avalanches. All that stuff. Because if you don't, you're going to lose 58% of your games. All right, this is Eternal King, signing out.